Hey friends, Rabbi Jenny Solomon here in Raleigh, North Carolina with a mincha moment, a spiritual offering for this afternoon or whenever you're finding this that I hope will be supportive. So we are in this grand moment of holding the pose, as my yoga teachers would sometimes say, right? We're sitting in a shape, holding a pose psycho-spiritually as we watch this election unfold, this moment in time. Perhaps even you could say we're holding the pose as we move through COVID as well. So on numerous levels, we are holding the pose. And one of the things that we're guided to do when we're holding a pose, because of course after time it demands a lot from us to stay in that position, to stay in that shape, is to find that steady space on the inside. So we look for the places inside where we feel steady. And when we call upon that steady place that dwells inside within each one of us, I find that I'm able to observe things moving, things coming in and out, sensation, physical sensation, but also thoughts and feelings. And then the question becomes, not only can I hold the pose from that steady place, but can I welcome whatever I'm experiencing with non-resistance, not fighting away what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling, what I'm experiencing. So with non-resistance and with non-violence. So non-violence, not like bad Jenny, bad yogi, bad meditator, bad rabbi. No. The question is really, can we welcome all that we are experiencing and make space for it? So in this week's Torah portion, Vayera, there are so many interesting moments, but among them, and I spoke on Tuesday a little bit about Avraham sitting bepetach ha'ohel at the opening of his tent. And soon after that moment, we have this portion of the narrative in which there are guests that make their way to Avraham and Sarah's tent. And one of the things that we see in this passage is that Avraham runs. We see the word running multiple times. He's like running around, finding a way to offer radical hospitality to these guests. And I'd like to think about Avraham's approach of radical hospitality, even in the way that we work with our inner lives. How can I be radically hospitable in inviting in the truth of my experience? And I want to relate this to this particular moment as we watch the election unfold. No matter what your political leanings, in all likelihood, you have felt really joyful and elated and relieved about certain elections, and then for others, a sense of great disappointment, discouragement, concern, upset. And I feel all those things like a ping pong ball. Like I could feel all of those things in just a matter of moments. Great hope for this country's healing as we move ahead with all the leaders who have been selected, and then other moments of feeling such sadness, anger, rage, concern about the differences, the different ways that we look at leadership and the way that we look at our society and the problems that we're facing. So the question is not whether certain feelings are good or not good, or we should entertain some and not others. The question is really, can we welcome them all? Can we make space for them all, just as Avraham did? And there is some nuance to these guests that Avraham and Sarah welcome. There's a question if they're actually angels or regular people. In any case, they come to eventually deliver a message to Avram and Sarah that they're going to have a long-awaited child. So the truth is that so too with our the guests of our feelings and our thoughts. We don't always know if they're being sent by God, so we ought to welcome them and just make space, and they'll go. They always go. That is the nature, the truth of things, impermanence. So this is what I want to say. I'm so hopeful about continuing to build a society where we see more civility and connection. And no matter who eventually wins the presidential election, this will be the work of the next chapter. And I know it's easy to sort of hold our heads low and say, the work is so great, like how long will it take to accomplish that work, and what can I possibly do to make a difference? But I am encouraged by people like Ruth Bader Ginsburg, may she rest in peace, who reminded us that real change and enduring change happens one moment at a time, one experience at a time. And all of us, no matter what lane we travel in, have the capacity to contribute towards that civility and that connection and healing that we so desperately need in our country, in our world. And I want to conclude with this. We practice this work of radical hospitality in our inner lives for the sake of being able to deliver that out in the world with other people, even people with whom we disagree vociferously. So you might think like, there's Jenny just being like spiritual, woo-woo about how we hold the pose, how we welcome feelings, how we experience sensation, how we learn to shape and build capacity for steadiness within ourselves, that is somehow disconnected from the social transformation that this moment is calling for among all of us. But I believe that it's inextricably connected. And if we can find within ourselves ways to practice building this capacity for welcoming, for truth-telling, for loving kindness, for making space within ourselves. And by the way, it's not even easy to do this in ourselves. If we can do this with our own inner lives, through our spiritual practice, through our embodied practice, through our just sitting quietly, then I do believe it will spill over in the ways in which we make space for and welcome and connect and see the truth and the love in others. All right, wishing everyone a good rest of the day.